I'm going to start class now. It's 4 o'clock. So sit up straight. On several blankets. Bring your spine up tall. Shoulders back, shoulder blades down, way up tall. Glasses off. Close your eyes. Draw your attention in. Join your palms. Go in. Relax the ear profoundly. Releasing the ear and consequently the jaw and throat allows the brain to recede. Front brain, midbrain, all the way to the back brain. Settle inward into your personal interior space. Into that space. Place nothing. Keep it clear. And then put an image of that root teacher, Patanjali, in that room. Bow your head to that teacher and this practice. And release your hands. Raise your head and open your eyes. Now, stretch your legs, and you need an assortment of flat blankets. Flat means folded this way, like headstand or shoulder stand. And if you don't have enough blankets to pile up 4, if you can't pile 4 up and still have extra blankets lying around, I know that's difficult, then take a blanket and instead of folding it in half, fold it in thirds. So it's still wide, it's just not quite as wide, but it's thicker and you don't need as many blankets to make the height. So do you understand, if you're a little short of blankets, fold them longwise in thirds instead of in halves. And make a stack of, I don't know, this is your spine, but usually it might be 3, the height of a low bolster. A low bolster.
What are we heading toward?
We're heading toward a supine chest opening. Yes. So, here's the idea. So I'm going to do it the way I suspect most of you are, which is 2 or 3 of these blankets. Now, you also, of course, need a head support. This is 3 blankets. So that, for some of you, might be kind of high if there's sensitivity in the low back. You may, in fact, only want to, you may also stagger them and in that way make them more comfortable for yourself. So you've got options. Now there's a pillow for your head, and I'll discuss this, but don't give yourself a teeny little pillow with no adjustability. If you get either an extra blanket or put a towel, excuse me, on top of that blanket so you have adjustability. And then it kind of doesn't matter how you do this. You can use bricks, more blankets, lots of options. You're going to take Supta Baddha Konasana. So with the blanket, the buttocks starting out away from the blanket, I'll bring my spine down and just be here for a little bit, trying to find out if my chosen height is adequate or too much or whatever. Lengthen those buttocks. You have to adjust to comfort. This lower part first. Then Baddha Konasana, just kind of relaxed. And you take bricks or roll blankets to keep those thighs comfy. Somebody speaking to me.
Put your feet in Baddha Konasana. Like this.
Yes.
It doesn't touch me.
The arms go laterally out to the side. I do see some of you using straps, and that is no problem. Not using a strap, also no problem. Just keep the heels together and the thighs comfortably supported. Now, I gotta say something about this neck support. And I'm gonna describe the neck support in terms of the interior of your neck rather than any outside description of the blankets. You've got these compartments, you know, pelvic, abdominal, chest, throat, head. You also have subcompartments in the head. Head's kind of complex. So the ears in particular, I'm calling your attention to, and the mouth, the whole mouth compartment, top to bottom, front to back, bottom of the mouth in the back connects into the throat directly, right? So that whole region which merges in parts with the throat, in other parts it's kind of distinct, like the ears, base of the skull. Then there's the base of the throat, the other divider between compartments. And the diaphragm divider, navel divider, and hip joints, pelvic floor. So you're looking at, I mean, with that inner eye and listening with that inner ear, not just to the compartments, but to the boundaries between them. Now to the chest and throat. The lift of these ribs should be such that the diaphragm boundary is open around its circumference and the throat. Now, you're gonna need to make an experiment. I want you to take your blanket and temporarily remove it so that you do not have support under the head. And your spine does whatever it does without a special prop. The blankets under the spine continue, it's just the blanket under the skull and the neck. Now you want to insert a very thin blanket under the skull and oh, sorry, before you do that, of course, beg pardon, you were observing, especially by means of the breath, you're observing the skull, throat, neck, collarbone zone, each compartment and its boundaries, looking for pinches or constrictions. If it were fully constricted, you would be, seriously in trouble. So there isn't a serious problem for anybody, but your sensations are giving you information. Now, raise the skull again, higher. Look at the compartments. Look at the boundaries between them. Look at the tongue and the back of the mouth. Are the sinuses as open? Do the eyes or ears experience pressure? Look at the shape of the ear canal. And this is going to be something that you look at throughout class. Look at the shape and just with your internal senses, don't put a finger in the ear yet. Make the shape of the ear relax until it is as round as possible. And in that way, you can help open that boundary with the head and neck. So observe your posture with respect to what's going on in the ear. If you will, add more support under the skull, bringing your head toward Jalandhara Bandha. So the blanket might fold again. And I don't necessarily want you to exaggerate, but do perhaps more than you're used to in the way of propping the head. And see what goes on. There's an immediate effect in the head, throat, neck, chest. Secondarily, there are effects lower down. Sometimes being able to profoundly relax the throat allows you to profoundly open the chest, which allows you to profoundly open the pelvis. Sometimes. Now, I'm going to ask you to make another experiment with that blanket. And you're, how shall I say this? You're going to take your blanket and make a roll out of it so that a round shape comes under the neck and the jaw is somewhat lifted rather than your frontal lobes being lifted. It's more the juncture between the neck and the skull is lifted, and the purpose of this is to open that boundary. I mean, or how shall I say, is to give you a new experience of that boundary between the neck and the brain. So one of these experiences, head flat, head a little supported, more supported, lots supported, and making the throat, that front neck open with this small cervical backbend. All of these change the connectedness of the space between the neck, the skull, the ears, the mouth, the chest. So one of those poses is useful. Bring yourselves back. Prepare to come up. Oh, by the way, whatever pose, whatever neck support you decided was useful, remember it. Now you come out. Help your knees together. Sometimes that's a useful first thing. Sometimes lifting the chest upright. Okay. Now, just be there for a second. Then we need to take Adho Mukha Svanasana with some kind of support. So the typical option is a brick or blankets. It could be the same pile of blankets or something like that, or a brick under the head and a belt around your arms. So you take that strap so that it holds those arms shoulder width, and it holds them just below the elbow on the forearm side. And you tuck your shirt in and you make this prop, make a good estimate of what you need. And here's how I want you to go up into this pose, very specific. I'm going to face you so you see it perhaps a little better. So I stretch forward, strap out the way. And when I come back, I don't know if you see this, but my belt is where the brick is. The brick is not by my hands, it's by my elbows, okay? So hands wide, palms braced. I'm gonna release my neck. Okay. Then my eyes are closed. When I come up, I do not look for that brick. I'm just keeping the head passive. Now I stretch up, hanging, stretch up, hanging. I'm ignoring the brick. I encounter it, it's like a surprise. And when I touch, I lift away from it. So do not, this is the point, do not aim for the brick. Aim for dog pose by full extension, eyes closed, head hanging, sides of the neck soft. So you're examining, of course, these compartments, the skull, the ears, the mouth, the throat, and the boundaries between them. Though sometimes the boundaries are quite thin. As soon as that hair or skin of your skull encounters the brick, don't keep moving into that brick. Stretch up toward the hips, pull back through the thighs. The head neither pulls away from the brick nor pushes down on the brick. The head just hangs. Keep the arms straight, the strap supporting you. Pull back through those legs. Come out, rest. So this is actually a difficult thing to do, and I'm going to have you try it again without the brick, because the brick gets confusing, contact with the brick. So I'm going to have you again go up and go up as if you were paralyzed from the neck up, with no capacity to pick up your head or turn it or do any of these little checks, right? No checking, no fidgeting. You've got no interaction with your neck. So you could start like this with the head resting on the floor, and then you come up without activation. And you come off your knees and you pause and deactivate, because some of you, the instinct to activate is automatic. So you have to like go up like you do in Viloma Pranayama. You go up a little bit, then deactivate the neck, go up some more, deactivate the neck, go up some more, deactivate, and until you get to the top. Deactivate, deactivate. And as time passes and the arms and legs become tired, reactivate the arms, deactivate the neck. Look at the boundaries, stretch your arms so the root of the neck stays soft. Go up, pause, deactivate, go up, pause, do some more, deactivate, do some more. Tighten the triceps, rolling them in, deactivate. Instead of activating differently, deactivate. Persist, deactivating. There's this, in many of us, the thoughts create a subtle activation. Keep following your ears, not your thoughts. The only thought is deactivate. Now, walk your feet forward to Uttanasana and leave your head hanging. You have to go slowly. Activation happens. Bend the elbows if your forward bend is forward enough. Bend the elbows so you broaden those shoulders. And you open, widen the elbows, widen the trapezius. Deactivate the neck. Keep the legs active. Deactivate the pelvic region, the abdomen. Allow that navel and diaphragm boundary zone to spread freely. Deactivate any constrictions. When you deactivate the constrictions, you start almost physically feeling the scouring contact of the prana with the body. Prepare to come up, hands on the hips, make your legs strong so the hip itself works. Inhale, come up, and stand in Tadasana, breathing, and examine, of course, your compartments. Now, if you join your feet, you're going to feel the pelvic compartment differently than if the feet are apart. So let's make an experiment. Joining the feet, compacting the legs as we would in Tadasana. The act of standing straight, stretching your legs to the floor, is an activation across this pelvic floor. Separate the feet, keep the legs active, and you feel less, well, let me just speak for my experience. When the legs are together, and I really work the legs, it's like the pelvic floor is no longer soft and it gets firm. So there's usefulness to this because it gives support for the lift of the trunk. With the legs apart, you can maintain that lift, but you soften. Can you feel this across the base? It's not like things fall down unless there's something wrong. If there is pelvic collapse, you actually do work with the legs together and you even work with the strap. And you all can feel the difference. Legs together creates an activation and a lift, and letting the feet be apart creates a broadening release, right? Which in most cases is fine. All right. Parshvottanasana. Get a chair. Face it toward you and put enough support on this chair to support your head when you are fully in your pose. So it could be a bolster, it could be two bolsters, it could be all of your blankets and bolsters. Okay, so there's two phases to this. Watch, I'm taking this off. If you're more flexible, the chair seat is fine. Right foot forward, left foot back. And I come up at first close to the chair. My foot is under the chair seat. And I square the hips with my hands on the chair seat, not quite high enough. Top of the chair seat. So here, way up high on that chair back, I square my hips and I use the leverage of the arm to lift my chest away from the hips. Stretch your legs back. Keep the groins broad. Sacrum lifted. Now I'm letting my head look down because it helps me lift my chest more. The head can come up after you fully lift that rib cage. It feels like a back bend emerging from your forward bend. Then, and you do this for a bit, opening this front spine length. Then the chair comes forward and you use whatever props you need. See how I'm stretching my arms straight. And I push that chair forward so I get all the length in my trunk that I can. Weight goes back to your back heel. The head is supported. Legs straight, hips square. Chest way up there, shoulders back, collarbones lifted. And you widen the ribs, trying to open that navel region, the boundary between pelvis and abdomen, if not abdomen and chest. And then shoulders down, neck broad, neck long, mouth soft. You go forward. Hands on the chair seat or bolsters. Arms running parallel to each other. Stretch those elbows. Yes, they're supported on the blankets so that the armpits can open. Now keep disengaging the jaw, neck, throat. Every time there's if your head is supported right, the neck won't get fidgety because of your posture. In which case, all you have to deal with is your own thoughts, which is the worst of it. Now, you can also cross your elbows, one hand holding the opposite upper arm. That keeps your upper arms parallel. If the legs and arms, neck, head are doing well, that breath penetrates. Those boundaries are open. Now, come on back up. Use the hands for support. Come up halfway, make your legs strong, then stand up all the way, bring your feet together, back in Tadasana for a few moments just to let it register. Then change sides. Left foot forward, right foot back. Bring the chair up very close to that shin. Back heel back. You're looking for some distance between those 2 feet. It's not a short stance. Stretch your legs, turn your hips square. Chair comes in close and you're up high on that chair back, levering with the whole arm from this shoulder to bring your chest up. Feels like a back bend. I know I can see what you guys see. It doesn't look like a back bend. It just looks like a straight spine pose, but it feels like one. So much lift. Open that boundary zone. Head down if it helps you lift your chest more. Then go forward. Walk that chair forward. Send it forward so your skull is supported. Arms straight. Take your pose. So there are patterns of breathing. When at the beginning of class, when you got very relaxed, I hope in that first pose, once you were relaxed, the breathing gets soft, rhythmic, nicely connected, and you might say sort of pranayamic. When you are getting into a pose or out of a pose, the breathing pattern is different. We often hold the breath. We grip the diaphragm, the abdomen, the throat, shoulders, neck. Feel free now to cross your elbows if that works for you. Keep them straight if it doesn't. Head resting, legs straight. Is a breathing pattern for that we unconsciously engage in getting into a pose. There's a breathing pattern when we're fussing and fidgeting to get comfy in the pose. And then there's the breathing pattern when settling to the pose. Come out, prepare, make your legs firm, use the arms for support. Stand up, join the legs, be in Tadasana. So next is Ardha Chandrasana. Some of us discussed this earlier about how you might support it. The preferred way is with your back against a wall. It doesn't have to be. Imagine this is just a wall that I'm resting on. And I have a chair, which I turn so that the outside of the chair faces away from the wall, faces you. So I'm going into Ardha Chandrasana, leaning my back to the wall, raising this back leg. And you see my foot close to the wall, but the wall doesn't have to be there. My elbow is on the chair seat, the hand is on the chair back, and my shoulders are resting on the wall, as are my hips, as is that back heel. So my body's rolled to the wall. Now, if your neck is stiff, look toward the floor. And keep arranging the disengagement of the neck. Top hand resting on the hip, the head in line with the spine. Raise that bottom ear so your neck is in line with the spine. And again, you can look down. The front part of the skull is a little heavier structurally, so looking down can relieve some of those neck muscles. come out. Stay on the same side. You're going to go in again on the right side. And in going in, I want you to, I've talked about, don't go in yet, child, don't go in yet. There are those 3 breathing patterns, right? And when the body is not used to a pose, the breathing is quite disturbed going in. You'll hold your breath even going in. So I want you to go into this pose without any restrictions. Don't grip the diaphragm, the abdomen, the throat. Go in, open. If you have to, open your mouth to ungrip some of this tension. Mouth open. So that there is no interruption of the breath on the way in. When you do your fidgeting to adjust in the pose, observe and let go of this breath. Do it in the way you do Viloma breathing. You take an action, you pause, and you decompress. And then you continue and decompress. And whatever grip in the zones or the boundaries that you accumulate in your effort, you gotta let them go. This is, let's talk philosophy for a second. The doing is abhyasa, or practice, and every doing creates something that we are gripping or holding on to. So you take a pause and let go of that thing. And then you proceed, practice, and then let go of the unnecessary stuff. Locate the unnecessary stuff and let it go. And in that way, the actual pranayama begins to happen. The prana begins moving without restriction. Come out carefully, bend the standing leg, take all the support of the wall you need, or the chair, stand up in Tadasana. And change sides. Left foot, wall at your back. Tip on over, observe yourself. Some of us have even, you might say, a subtle aversion to the pose. So even thinking about the pose causes something mental, physical to grip. Chaya, if possible, could you lower that brick? Which makes, of course, that pelvis turn a little more, but it makes your spine get more horizontal, and that might help that breathing. That's my thought. Watch the head drop, cliff. Treat this as a Viloma breathing pattern. You engage the pose and disengage the clenches, the restrictions. particularly in the boundaries between the compartments. And come out, bend the knee, step back, come on up, turn the feet. Be in Tadasana. Now we're going to do Prasarita Padottanasana, but supported. How supported, again, is kind of up to your flexibility. So if you're flexible, a chair seat will do the trick. If you're not, you're going to need bolsters, blankets, more bolsters. You might need an IKEA stool. It's a custom thing. Here's the idea. I'm going to do without anything but a chair so you see more clearly. The legs go wide apart. Prasarita Padottanasana. And I'll show you in both directions. The chair comes forward and I go forward, resting my forehead on the chair. Okay, so from the side, the legs stay vertical. The head is supported, the arms are straight. Now, if I can make one thing clear, this sacrum should not drive a curve into the lumbar spine. You keep these groins soft, and there is an internal lift in that abdomen, not a grip, no grip. Okay, so you do Prasarita Padottanasana. Legs apart, forward bend. So with practice, the breathing pattern of getting into a pose and adjusting in the pose and being in the pose, those three phases, the breathing kind of gets similar between all three. There are still differences. Now you're, I didn't show this, but simple enough. Put your hands on the floor, remove the chair, hang your head down. If this is quite difficult for you, don't stay long. Take those feet wider. Yes, Chaya. Good. That's it. Good. Feet parallel. Now, here's another place where that head is touching something and it can be distracted and involved. Let your head go down to your support, but keep your shoulders lifted and broadened. Keep some upward movement in that shoulder girdle so that the neck and skull compartment do not feel compression, muscular or skeletal. Open those ears. Round ear canal. Soft jaw. You can feel when one side of the neck is tight. That ear is not the same as the other. This can be really objectively measured by putting your pinky finger or your thumb, whatever it fits, into the ear canal. We often notice it putting earbuds in. The earbud will fit one ear and not the other, or differently. Open your ears. Disengage the neck. Hang that neck. Now, come up. Straighten the arms. The chair is near if you need it to help you come up. Make your legs firm. Bring your feet together if you need. Come up. Watch your breath as you do. Don't constrict. Okay. Good. A supported back bend. Now, this is where your props come in handy. There's a chair way to do this, and most of you are going to work with a chair. So if you work with the chair, you need just a giant stack of things raising up the floor higher and higher. Look, here's even a second whole bolster plus blankets and a couple more blankets. Blankets, blankets, support for the head and the neck. Now, look at this. I just got a bunch of height as a base, okay? Whatever. Now, the final height is the final support. Whatever else you do is a rolled cylinder of blanket. Okay. Now, it could be that this entire operation is the wrong height, in which case, what it's likely to be is too low. Almost nobody builds these things too high. They always build them too low. So give yourself an extra blanket just in case, and you can climb out of the pose and fix things if you need to. Here's the other option. You get 4 bolsters and you just stack them in a pile, 2 on top of 2, and you strap them together. So you wind up, see, with this giant double stack, 2 here and 2 here, and they're all strapped together to make a giant pile, which is kind of like this chair plus these blankets, giant pile. So watch. Here's a bolster just to support my feet. You ready? Have a look. Hips through, shoulders down, on the edge of the chair, shoulder blades on the chair. I just put my feet at rest. Now I'm gonna relax. Do you see where my shoulders are? They're off the edge of the chair, but they're in front of the blanket roll. So I have slid a bit off the chair, just off my shoulder blades. So I'm right across the line at the base of the sternum in back. And that's where I'm comfy. Now, all this stack of bolsters and blankets is to create that same open throat that we were hunting for at the beginning of class. This makes me just want to be quiet. So I hope you guys get in a good place where that support is so comfy, it makes your neck, throat, chest, abdomen disengage and you become quiet. So you start with the shoulder blades on. And if you see my support, if you see that chair there, you may see that the rolled blanket looks to be almost the same height as the chair seat. And it's only when I get into it that it starts smushing and allowing me to smush. Yep, Vicky. Yes, big roll. Now you're going through the chair the other way, Vicky, and I don't know if you want to. Okay, good. Okay. So good, Chaya. That look, are you comfy, Chaya? Good. And by you, I mean your brain, throat, ears, neck, jaw. Now, of course, your feet don't have to be on that bolster. They can be on the floor. Let the front hip open. Gay and Cliff, do you have a problem? Are you okay? Okay. And again, you can stretch your legs on the bolster on the floor, but as you go, you're watching what this does to the breath. If your legs stretch and the pelvic lumbar compartment doesn't like it, it will interfere with the breath. You'll have to elevate the feet, which means you go back to that bolster. Instead of resting your feet on it, you stretch your legs, rest your heels on it. Decompress the abdomen, decompress. If this pose works well, the breath feels, especially on the inhalation, as if it is, we're back to that word scouring. And it's not in a rough sense, but it's certainly in a tangible sense. It's making contact with and flowing across the surfaces of the pelvis, right out to the hip sockets. the back wall of the abdomen, the whole circumference of the diaphragm. This, what they call the basin of the pelvis. It should really feel like a very deep bowl. The positioning and support of the neck, chest, head kind of draws the sensation of the breath toward the spine. It gets reflected forward in the ribs, the sternum, the expansion of the chest. But the throat deflates, jaw, mouth, ear. There is no inflation in those boundary places. There's deflation, and the deflation recedes close to the spine, close to the root of the spine, close to the back brain, back of the chest. Now, prepare to come out. Take the hands to the chair, bend the knees, put the feet flat. Make sure your buttocks are on the chair seat before you raise your chest up. Come up sitting up tall in that chair seat. And as you come up, you're already up, but hopefully you got a memory of coming up. Did you stop breathing? Could you keep breathing? Which boundaries got stuck? Now, if your back is stiff, you're sitting in your chair and you take these small twists just to break the grip in the lumbar spine. You can sit sideways in the chair. The idea is just undo some of that stiffness. 4 or 5, 3 or 4, 2 or 3, I don't know, undo the stiffness. Then come out of the chair. Now, change of props. All I think you're gonna need is 2 blankets total, plus your chair. Everything else out of the way. Turn your chair around so that the chair back faces you. You have 2 blankets. One is going to be for the head, and the other one is folded narrow. So I've taken like a shoulder stamp blanket and I'm triple folding it so it's narrow, and I put it right up against the chair. And this is going to be roughly where I guess my head is going. And then I climb in. So I go in and I bring my calves onto the chair all the way to the knee, all the way to the back of the knee. Even if that means your heels hang over the front of the chair. And then I lie down and I fuss once more, getting the knees back up because maybe you rolled away. But there's more. Put your hips on this blanket at the foot of the chair, and then let yourself drift backwards off it till you are only supported by the buttock bones and tailbone. And if you see this, can you see this view of me? My low back, without me pushing, my low back and sacrum rest on the floor. So if I didn't have this under me, the tailbone would be down slightly, and you don't see it, but I would feel the lumbars slightly concave. So I get this blanket under, and then I look, I'm pushing myself off it till it is just the buttock bones, tailbone, and that sacrum is down. And I try to get a finger under my sacrum, and I can't. Then you tuck your shoulder blades, and you find a curve for your neck that makes you want to stop fidgeting. Last act, take your heels to the outside of the chair, hook the inner heel on the outer chair, and let go. Some considerations. Make sure your spine is long in this curve, not short. So that blanket that's supporting the neck and head shouldn't be even subtly too close to the hips. Sometimes pushing the hips back off that buttock blanket makes you collide a little closer with the head blanket, so make sure that's not the case with you. You got a full length spine. Tailbone up. That tiny lift right at the base of the pelvis makes even the region of the bladder, which is just like behind the pubis, drop down naturally. No muscular grip. So there was getting in this pose that involved a certain amount of breath disturbance. And as you adjust and settle, the breath gets less and less disturbed, flows more and more smoothly. And if the pose is correct, the breath flows everywhere, even though the pose itself, like the structure of the pose, suggests a distinct path for that breath. The breath follows that path, and the effect of the breath can be felt everywhere. So in this pose, the main path of the breath is close to the back body, especially in the pelvis and the abdomen. When you get to the diaphragm boundary, the diaphragm, if it is free, it opens very nicely to the sides and forward, to the side walls, to the ceiling. Even as the main path of that breath stays close to the spine. In this pose, the breath doesn't leave the spine. It goes everywhere. but it stays firmly anchored in the back body. So watch the whole length of that spine. The spine is its own compartment, and it traverses all these other compartments: pelvis, abdomen, chest, throat, head. So all of those boundaries and connectivity want to be unconstricted. So when you go into an asana, and as you're working your way through an asana, the Viloma style of work can help. Here, just stay with smooth and simple ujjayi, measured and steady exhalation and inhalation. If the relaxation is deep, the mind will get so quiet at the end of the exhalation, there will be a natural, you might say, viloma, a natural pause. That's more the correct word. Kumbhaka. It won't last long, a natural one. But notice it. Avoid prolonging it. Just notice it. Make use of it. That small pause is the best place to remove grips. It's the best place to practice vairagya. And potentially directly links both the soft and quiet exhalation and the pause that occurs at the end of it. He links both of those to a series of methods. I'm sorry, he includes them in a series of methods specifically to make the mind quiet. Chitta vritti nirodha. Bring yourselves back slowly. Let the mind come up to the surface. Don't move necessarily. When you do, go slow. Rest on your side. Namaskar. So, a small announcement. Jonathan and I have talked, and we're going to experiment with an 8 a.m. class on Wednesday with the yoga tree. So maybe a second class time will open up. I don't know if it'll happen this week or next week, but Wednesdays, 8 a.m. to 9:15 at the yoga tree. Okay? So it'll show up on the schedule. I don't think it's up now, but it's going to happen. Look at my website. It will be posted there once it's confirmed with Jonathan.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much, Devon.
Namaskar, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you so
Wake
much.
up early Wednesday
Thank you,
morning.
Devon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.